Hello, family. Hello, family. Welcome back to Bible study. I am so excited about this word that I'm delivering today. As you know, we've been dealing with practical principles to prosper. Not, just the spiritual principles of tithes and offerings. And of course, I practice that. I live by that. I believe in that. But I'm also keenly aware, that there is more to the process of prosperity than the application of those spiritual principles. That there has to be some pragmatic process. In fact, an approach to pragmatic principles to live one's life thereby, if we're really going to see the kind of prosperity that God has designed for us. So in this particular lesson, we're talking about the principle of entrepreneurship. My tongue always gets tied on that word. The principle of entrepreneurship. Now we're going back to the woman whose husband died and the creditors were coming to take her sons. So if you go back to 2 Kings chapter 4, verses 1 through 7, it says, "Now there cried a certain woman of the wives of the sons of the prophets unto Elisha, saying, Thy servant my husband is dead. And thou knowest that thy servant did fear the Lord. And the creditors come to take unto him my two sons to be bondmen. And Elisha said unto her, What shall I do for thee? Tell me, what hast thou in the house? And she said, Thine handmaid hath not anything in the house but a pot of oil. Then he said, Go borrow thee vessels abroad of all thy neighbors, even empty vessels, borrow not a few. And when thou art come in, thou shalt shut the door upon thee and upon thy sons, and shalt pour out into all those vessels, and thou shalt set aside that which is full. So she went from him and shut the door upon her and upon her sons, who brought the vessels to her. And she poured out. And it came to pass, when the vessels were full, that she said unto her son, Bring me yet a vessel. He said unto her, There is not a vessel more. And the oil stayed. Then she came and told the man of God, and he said, Watch this. Go sell the oil, pay thy debt, and live thou and thy children on the rest. So we've been looking at this lady and her predicament for a few lessons now. But here we see that the prophet indirectly shifts her focus from two financially crippling factors. Excuse me. He shifts her focus when you read the whole story and you look at how it played out. He shifts her focus from social services, and he even shifts her focus from the noble idea of employment as being ideal goals. He shifts her focus from her husband just died, left them in debt. The creditors are coming to make her sons slaves to pay off the debt. And the prophet shifts her focus from social services, which would have been warranted in her predicament. And he doesn't even suggest to her that she needs a job. He did not reach into his pocket to relieve her financial troubles, which represents what? He did not focus her on welfare, though it would have been warranted for a woman in her predicament. Though it might have been warranted and though it might have been a good thing for her to receive, it would not have been a generational response to a problem. He chooses rather not to give the woman a fish, but he chooses to teach her how to fish so that the wisdom that is extracted from the situation is not just momentary relief, but generational transformation. He also did not direct her to get a job to pay off her debt. He made her discover her business potential. He made her discover her entrepreneurial grace. I'm getting a little excited here. If you all listen to me, I promise you, this is going to help a lot of people. He did not say, okay, let me help you out. Let me give you some welfare, and nothing wrong with receiving it if you need it. That's why we pay taxes. And the Bible says we should take care of the poor and the less fortunate. He did not focus her on, okay, I know somebody down here that can give you a little job, because the kind of money she needed for people to be talking about taking her sons and making them slaves, she probably couldn't have earned that money on an hourly wage. You cannot create enduring wealth with a welfare or a work mentality, because in either scenario, you are always dependent on someone else for your survival. Welfare, you're depending on who's going to be in office, if it's going to be Republicans, if it's going to be Democrats. Job, you're depending on a few factors. How inundated is your particular community with people who do what you do? Does your employer like you? Is your employer taking care of his or her financial affairs? Is the business going to stay open? You're always second and third and fourth down the line in terms of being able to determine your own fate with working for someone or with a welfare mentality. But that's what we have most of in the United States of America, at least. We have people who are locked in on, I just need a job mentality, which is honorable, nothing wrong with it. It's just not ideal for you as an individual when you start thinking about God's ultimate plan for your wealth. And then you have people who are completely satisfied on a welfare system and don't want to get off of it. But the prophet teaches us what not to focus on in what he did not do regarding this woman's dilemma. She had a financial need. She was a widow with sons. So it seems as though she would have been a great candidate for welfare. One might have thought the prophet would have gone into his own reserves, his own pockets, and given her a handout, but he did not. The next thing that is odd is that he did not direct her to go and to get a job to pay her debt. Go to Deuteronomy 28, verses 12 and 13. This is the principle of entrepreneurship. Deuteronomy 28, 12 and 13. The Lord shall open unto thee his good treasure, the heaven to give the rain unto thy land in his season, and to bless all the work of thine hand. And thou shalt lend unto many nations, and thou shalt not borrow. And the Lord shall make thee the head and not the tail, and thou shalt be above only, and thou shalt not be beneath. If that thou hearken unto the commandments of the Lord thy God, which I command thee this day, to observe and to do them. Now notice he says, verse 13, and the Lord shall make thee the head and not the tail. Thou shalt be above only, and thou shalt not be beneath, if you hearken unto the commandments of the Lord. Now, the tail in marketplace terminology, if you were to take this text and apply it to marketplace, the tail in market terminology is represented by those who consume or buy, which is the majority of people probably in the world, definitely the majority of people in the United States of America. Consume or buy. You are the tail. The head is represented by those who produce or sell. Now, God's plan for his children, for you and I, is that we should be the producers and not professional consumers. So now I want to ask you a question. In what I just said, where do you fall? Are you the tail or are you the head? When you are the head, you are the lender and not the borrower. You're above only and never beneath. You are the producer and not necessarily the consumer, which all of us are consumers, but you do more producing than you do consuming. Now let's get into the points of this principle of entrepreneurship. Number one, and all of this is taken from the prophet's encounter with this widow woman whose sons are getting ready to be taken as slaves to pay off debt. And he does not direct her to welfare. He does not direct her to the workforce. He directs her to entrepreneurship. Number one, any entrepreneurial endeavor starts with having a sound personal financial foundation. If you're going to go into business and be successful in business, it starts with having a sound personal financial foundation. And I'll show you what I mean here. Before the prophet gives her instruction to go into business, he has her to take financial inventory of her house and to put her house in order. He gave her she took and put all of her issues on the table, all of her financial problems. He gave her a strategy. He gave her some instruction. She followed through. She produced. He caused her to pull her house into order. After she discovers and organizes her resources, he then gives her instruction to go into business. This is after the fact. This is after he's remedied her debts and all of that kind of thing, took her out of crisis mode, and now she's saying what to do. And the same prophet that instructed her how to come out of financial bondage now instructs her to go completely into business. And this is symbolic of having your personal financial life in order. See, being a business person or an entrepreneur is more than wishing upon a star. You actually have to live your life in stages that will lead to your entrepreneurial launch. Any would-be entrepreneur must view the organization and the structure of his or her personal finances as the first step towards business success. Because there are many businesses that are, when you look at it, there are many businesses that are really a success, but ultimately fail because those in charge transport poor personal habits into their business life. In other words, there are a lot of businesses that fail not because the businesses weren't profitable. It's because those who were the heads or the head of the business did not have sound financial practices and bankrupt the business just like they bankrupted themselves personally with poor practices, squandered, consumed more than they should. When one learns to manage and honor his or her current resources, it automatically opens the door for more. Look in Matthew 25 and 22. It says, his Lord said unto him, well done, thou good and faithful servant. Thou hast been faithful over a few things. I will make thee ruler over many things. Now, the lifestyle principle here is that being focused on the smaller personal matters of life opens the door to larger things. So, right now, taking the responsibility to work on getting your credit cleaned up, or even having taking the responsibility of knowing what your credit score is. It's amazing to me how many people don't even know what their credit score is. How many people don't even know what a good credit score is or a bad credit score. Have no inkling, no idea relative to what makes for a bad credit score, what makes for a good credit score. You have all of this information at the tips of your finger on telephones and pads, and you've not even taken the initiative to figure out how to improve this area of your life. Here's an illustration, a story. Johnny is a young college graduate. He is now ready to use his business degree to conquer the world. Johnny has his logo designed and even embroidered onto shirts for his future staff. Johnny found the perfect location for his new business. Johnny is amazed because the location is a prime locale and the cost of the building is below market value. When Johnny went to the bank to get a loan for his new business, he discovered that there is no bank that would qualify him. The years of ignoring the payment of his bills on time, his terrible credit score, his overextended lifestyle, and no money saved, all came together to make his larger vision of his own business a dream deferred. If you have entrepreneurial ambitions, let's start today with developing sound business financial practices in your life. Start saving. If you have credit cards, I forget what the number is now because I keep my credit cards paid off, but I think your credit card should be below 30%. I think it may be even lower. You should never use more than, let's say 30% of whatever your credit limit is. You shouldn't have all your credit cards just maxed out. Start saving, putting a few dollars aside. You see, start developing these sound practices now in your personal life, because your personal life is going to be the foundation for your business life. A person should always have his or her personal financial life in order before attempting a business. Most businesses fail because either there is not enough reserved cash or a lack of personal credit to keep the business afloat until the business comes into its own. So you start a business, you have to understand you're going to be the primary financier. Even if you borrow money, you're responsible to pay that money back. You have to view yourself as the primary financier. It's a major mistake to separate the well-being of any business endeavor from the person's personal financial welfare. You must understand that you are the number one financier of your business. If you can't secure it, more than likely it won't be sustained. Look in Luke chapter 14, verses 28 through 30. It says, "For which of you intending to build a tower sitteth not down first and counteth the cost, whether he have sufficient to finish it? Lest haply after he hath laid the foundation and is not able to finish it, all that behold it begin to mock him, saying, This man began to build and was not able to finish." So a major part of developing the resources one will need to build a healthy and thriving business is to understand the power of good credit, the necessity of reserve cash, and the importance of having a good reputation credit score. A person must first learn to treat his job like a business to develop the qualities necessary to succeed in business. You see, if I give you a job to do and I pay you to do it and you can't get to the job on time, You can't go the extra mile to make certain that the job is done. You don't bring a spirit of excellence to the job. You don't bring integrity to the job. Well, you're disqualifying yourself for your own business, because the qualities you need to be a good employee are only a fraction of the qualities you're going to need to be the employer. If you work 8 hours a day as an employee, you're going to probably have to work 16 or more as the employer. If you're going to have a good reputation and a good name as an employee, you're going to absolutely have to have a great reputation as the employer. So you ought to view your job presently as practice for your own business. Listen to what Luke 16:12 says. And if ye have not been faithful in that which is another man's, who shall give you that which is your own? Now here's the application. Before you run with a business idea, take inventory of all your resources, check your credit score, and do the work to improve either category that might be lacking. Don't launch your business until you have your personal financial matters in order. Now, point number two. Point number one was any entrepreneurial endeavor starts with having a sound personal financial foundation. Here's point number two. A successful business stems from something that is close to your heart and life. Now, I have a few businesses. Lisa and I have a few businesses. And honestly, I have to be honest with you all. My businesses came out of passion. I didn't even know I was starting businesses. It came out of passion. You know, all of our businesses came out of passion. All of them. You know, my online programs, my mentoring, all of these are businesses that, you know, are pretty lucrative. Lisa publishes my books. You know, so we've not made no noise about it, but she's published a few people's books. She has that aspect of business. She has the the travel agency that came out of before the COVID-19 thing happened. We were traveling a lot, and said, well, rather than paying other folk to do this, do it for yourself. Then we're getting ready to do the thing over in Europe before the pandemic. Then we're going to do the cruise. And so all of these businesses came out of stuff that was already close to the heart. You know, my books, that's a business. My books sell around the world every day. That's a business. I didn't know it was a business when I just started writing. I was just writing out of my passion, not understanding that God would just bless me and put people around me that helped me to see that in as much as I was expressing my passion, I was also birthing businesses. And so the next thing we learn from the prophet's encounter with the widow is that he helped her to discover her business niche. This discovery was based on something that was already in her home. You see how this thing is lining up? Her business came of something that was close to her. The oil that she had ignored was the key to her deliverance. She never saw the business potential that was in her life. Now, let me just drop a peg here. That's why I believe we need coaches, because that's primarily what the prophet did for her. And when she brought her problem to him, he coached her into seeing what she actually possessed. And then he coached her into maximizing what she actually had. He showed her she didn't need a handout. He showed her she didn't need a job. He showed her she actually had everything she needed. The most successful business endeavor comes from something that flows naturally from your talents, from your skills, from your resources, or your passion. Never attempt a business that does not resonate with you personally. Now, some businesses will resonate with you more or less, but you should always do business in a vein that you're comfortable doing. You know, like I have a lot of opportunities that people, really throw money at me to do this, to promote that. And most of it I don't even respond to. Once I read it, I'm realizing, that doesn't resonate with me. That's not a part of my brand. And though the money would be good, it's not a part of my brand. And so, I don't make business decisions based on money. Listen to what Proverbs 31:24 says. She maketh her linen and selleth it, and delivereth girdles unto the merchant. Now, this is the Proverbs 31 woman, the virtuous woman. But notice how she found her business by way of her own hand. She sold what she made. You look at Joseph. Joseph not only prepared Egypt for a famine, but he created a new business in the famine. The business was developed from what Egypt already had. Grain. Your business is going to come out of what you already have. Write down Genesis 41:56 and 57, and it says, and the famine was over all the face of the earth, and Joseph opened all the storehouses and sold unto the Egyptians, and the famine waxed sore in the land of Egypt, and all countries came into Egypt to Joseph for to buy corn, because that the famine was so sore in all lands. But the business came out of what they possessed. There's something that you either currently have or you have the potential to acquire, you have access to it, that there will be a demand for, or that will be in demand. You must recognize your niche or your niche. Somebody say there are riches and niches. Get your personal business in order and take advantage of your season. Now, here's the illustration. Henry was a high school football fanatic. He would go every Friday night. So he designed a special chair equipped with built-in binoculars, heated seat, and it was padded. The chair was also designed in a way that it could break down easily. It was lightweight and could easily fit into the trunk of any car. Henry made this chair for his own enjoyment, but soon discovered that other football fanatics became interested. Today, Henry has a production factory and is employing over 100 people to keep up with the demand. Henry is making a fortune doing something that he would have done simply for fun. It is always God's plan for you to be the producer and not the consumer. It simply requires revelation of your niche to recognize what God has for you. Proverbs 8:11 and 12 says, for wisdom is better than rubies, and all the things that may be desired are not to be compared to it. I, wisdom, dwell with prudence and find out knowledge of witty inventions. Whenever a business idea is on the table, it will require the wisdom of God to discern what's really for you. Now, here's the application. Never do a business because someone tells you it's profitable. A business effort must be based on something you can have a personal passion for. The only way to have a sustained passion is to do what you're good at, what you believe in, and what you would invest in. Now, let me move on to point number 3, which is a thriving business has a community to support it. A thriving business has a community to support it. The third thing the prophet teaches us through his interaction with the widow woman, is that any sound business concept needs to identify a community to support it. 2 Kings 4:3-7. Then he said, go borrow the vessels abroad of all thy neighbors, even empty vessels, borrow not a few. So we see her in the community. And then ultimately we see her, working with her kids. And then we see her having a community to sell the oil in. If a business does not have a community to support it, it is doomed before it starts. Notice how this woman's business got started. She borrowed vessels from neighbors to get off of the ground. She involved her children as manpower to produce the product. And finally, she had a receptive, warm community, a warm market to sell her product to. A wise business person builds relationships before he or she opens their business. See, if you have entrepreneurial ideas, you need to start building relationships now. You need to start shaking hands. You need to start smiling. You need to start learning names. To have a supportive community means that one must support his community. You can't have a supportive community if you don't support your community. Pause right there because I need you to think about that. You cannot have a supportive community. You don't deserve a supportive community if you don't support your community. My community supports me because I support my community. This is the principle of what? Collectivism. Collectivism states that any group of people can create their own economy within the structure of mainstream society. When a group of people intentionally keep their resources circulating among themselves, they create their own economy. That's what the church did in Acts chapter 4 and 32. It says, "In the multitude of them that believe were one heart and one soul. Neither said any of them that aught of the things which he possessed was his own, but they had all things common." The church pooled all of their resources. The first century church pooled all of their resources, and nobody suffered. The early church collectively pooled their resources, and as a result, none suffered lack. Though this was not a free enterprise effort, it does emphasize the power of collectivism, one for all and all for one. Here's the illustration. Jake has just opened a cleaners amidst two well-known franchise cleaners. However, Jake's Cleaners is thriving in spite of the competition. When the local news station came to find out Jake's secret, Jake said, "I belong to a church family that teaches collectivism, and my church members are committed to supporting my business. Consequently, when other businesses suffer loss in their first year, I am going to make a considerable profit." All because he had a community. He had a community because he supported a community. Collectivism is the master key to a thriving business, no matter what the economic climate might be. Finally, here's the application. Any business person should work on his or her, here's the reiteration, social skills to create a more attractive personality. The individual should begin to develop a network and intentionally sow seeds of support into other people's visions. The individual should make certain to make his business idea well known in his community of support and voice the need for his community to support his business effort. There you have it. That's the principle of entrepreneurship. Practical principles to prosper. I hope you got something out of that. Don't forget to go by my website, rcblakes.com. Sign up for my mailing list. Go by and check out my online programs. They're 66% off at this time. I don't know how much longer that's going to last. Go to Amazon. In fact, while you're on my website, you can hit books. It'll bring you to Amazon. You can shop any of my books on Amazon. And just know that we love you. We love you. We love you. We love you. And I want you to expect that God is going to do what only God can do. And just know that we are coming out of this in Jesus' name. I love you, my babies. God bless you. I'll talk to you real soon.